Well, everybody, welcome back to the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. Episode is all about what we want to talk about, our favorite subject, Eagles and Vikings. Two teams that are going to be sneakily trying to fight for the NFC crown next year, possibly. We'll
I like it.
see. After free agency, it's been very interesting. We still got the draft to go, so that could be a big change, especially because one team this side has no picks, other team has all the picks.
Yep.
So that could definitely change things. But as of right now, the free agency side has definitely steered toward Minnesota looking a lot better right now. But let's start with the Eagles. I want to start there. So I'm gonna let you take over, talk about maybe the guys you lost, a couple guys you added, but the main thing is the comp game that you guys are playing. I want to start there.
Yeah, I'll be honest, when it comes to the comp game, I get a little annoyed how much it gets talked
I
about.
kind of do too, honestly.
I
It
do
gets a little overhyped.
I get the logic and I do understand. But here's the thing I would say is um the comp picks are overvalued each of the picks by 1 round. It's not a third round pick, it's a fourth round pick. It's not a fifth round pick, it's a sixth round pick.
Because it's the very bottom of the round. Yeah.
Right. And that's the key
Mm-hmm.
distinction that is not made, which drives me insane. Is
Mm-hmm.
so it's like
Mm-hmm.
overvaluing how much it's really worth. So, yes, in true essence, it is a third round pick, but it's after all 32 picks of that
Yep.
round. So, therefore, it
Mm-hmm.
really is a fourth round pick. It just happens to be
Mm-hmm.
called the third round because the view of the league is that, well, if we're going to view the reward the picks, like we should do it at that round of, based on the contract value, so we'll make it up
Mm-hmm.
then, and then we'll skip to the next round or move to the next round after that. But as of now, the Eagles are projected to have a third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, which is great. It's four picks you weren't expecting to have before. I do think
Mm-hmm.
the Eagles will avoid at all cost picking up anybody that could affect that comp pick formula.
Which
Um,
is good and kind of not good at the same time.
yeah, I think that it just depends on what's Howie's goal here. What's his vision?
Mm-hmm.
Is he admitting to himself, hey, I'm not good at getting players and structuring teams to be successful every year. What I'm good at is rebuilding every couple of years, every 3 years.
Hmm.
If that's his
Okay.
model, if that's what he's saying, which I think is respectable, it doesn't need to be a
Mm-hmm.
dynasty every
It's
single
hard to
year.
win in this league. It's hard to win in this league.
Well, and one thing that's I think an important caveat is the quarterback salary structure is so different in the past 5 years
Mm-hmm.
compared to what it was when Tom Brady was the quarterback of the Patriots. It was a very
Right.
different model. And Patrick
Yep.
Mahomes is a one of one, so
Mm-hmm.
that's different too. I'm not saying the Eagles can't be successful, but maybe how his thought is that look, I know that it's unlikely that we get back to the Super Bowl next year. So let's look at how we can spread out our shots to really take
Mm-hmm.
advantage of those opportunities when it comes up and take the fullest of it and not just do half measures, right? Like instead of
Mm-hmm.
having 5 seasons in a row where you can, kind of go in every year, let's instead space out our shots and then really find the Saquon Barkley signings to invigorate our team to be more successful. That's kind of my sense of how he's doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Is he's trying to take that
Mm-hmm.
approach of let's look at the long game. Let's pick up some comp picks at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also, let's just be honest. They couldn't re-sign Milton Williams. That
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 was never
could
gonna
not
happen.
happen. I mean, if
Yeah.
like, are you really going to keep Milton Williams and let Jalen Carter go? That's
Mm-hmm.
silly. I mean, the comp pick
Yeah.
value is the same. You're not going to get
Mm-hmm.
more for Jalen Carter if he leaves, and it would probably be way worse than how your team's going to feel afterwards and the season you'd have. So that doesn't make
Yep.
sense on that ground. Josh Sweat is iffy. The one part I would say under the Josh Sweat is it was always a mistake to go for Bryce Huff. To me, I never loved the Bryce Huff signing last year. That one
Last
was
year. Yeah.
never something I liked. And the way I've seen most people phrase it is they picked Bryce Huff over Sweat, and now they're paying for it. They're paying for the long term consequences. And man, it just sucks. It just really
Mm-hmm.
sucks that that's how they chose to invest. I just, yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. But the reality is like it's already passed. It's over. They made the
Hmm.
mistake. They have to live with what they have. They thankfully have Jalex Hunt on the team to help out. Here's another thing, too, I'll mention on the Eagles defensive line. We haven't heard anything about Brandon Graham, which is semi interesting, which
Yeah.
gives me some hope that he might come back because I felt like by now we would have heard something about retirement. I'm not saying
Hmm.
he isn't going to retire. I'm just saying Jason Kelsey, we knew. Fletcher Cox, we knew.
Yeah.
Like you could read the tea leaves and they came through. I'm not getting that sense with Brandon Graham. I did hear he did re tear his tricep, so maybe he is going to be done.
Ooh. Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows as far as
Hmm.
what's going to happen? I'm just saying that maybe the Eagles are thinking that part. Maybe they think that Brandon Graham's going to come back because the recovery time's longer between now and the season. So maybe they think there's a
That's
chance. I
fair.
I don't know, but that might be
Yeah.
factoring into their thinking. Um, the Becton signing hurts as far as going to the Chargers, but
Hmm.
also they're paying Mailata, they're paying
A lot of
Dickerson,
money.
they're
Hmm.
paying Johnson, and they're going to pay Cam Jurgens.
Jergens.
You're
Hmm.
really going to pay top money to all five offensive linemen. I don't see how that
That's
works.
hard to do. That is really hard to do, and then still build a roster. Yeah,
I just don't see how you do it. You have to have rookies fill in somewhere. So
you
that to
do.
me doesn't make
There's a
sense.
couple. There's a couple guards in this draft too that could be interesting.
Well, and many people are kind of poo-pooing at Tyler Steen. I thought Tyler Steen did okay. I thought he did respectable. I don't think he did bad. He filled in the Super Bowl for a little bit because Becton was out for I think 2 to 3 series. We were still
Yeah, he
scoring with
was.
Steen
Yeah, I
out
think
there.
he concussion protocol or something like that.
I think it was his leg, if I remember right. He was
Okay.
having a hard time setting and being able to get into pass block, which was a problem
Mm.
for the pass rush with KC. But
Hmm.
that's my read on it. So, like that one didn't make sense either. The one that I'd say hurts the most is Isaiah Rodgers. I really thought we had a chance,
Mm.
but your flipping Minnesota Vikings swept in and brought him in a very respectable contract, and now he's
Hmm.
your number two. Let me tell you, he's great. I like him a lot. He offers a
Yeah.
lot on special teams. He's a great
Hmm.
player. He knows. I like players that know they're playing on a second chance. They
Hmm.
know that they've messed
To
up,
prove it.
and I don't. I'm not trying to say like what he did was bad with the gambling thing. That was a whole nother
Yeah.
topic. But he
Yeah.
knows that he can't. He can't continue to mess up. He can't
Hmm.
continue to have issues. Lane Johnson got suspended for the drug issue,
Hmm.
and like he was like, "That is it. That's the only time this is going to happen." I guess it's two, but like that's a long story. But after that final one, he was like, "That's it. No more. I am done. Like I'm gonna." I just feel like it pushes you into another gear as a player, and so I get this sense
Those
from Rodgers.
those Sooner kids, they just know how to act when they mess up one time. Ask Jalen.
Yeah, I like it. Um,
Hmm.
but that's kind of where I'm at in the comp picks. I like it. They're nice to have. It's nice you can trade comp picks, and maybe that's
Yes,
where
that's
Philly's going to
huge.
start.
Yeah, that's where I see because I mentioned this to you earlier, but the way that Philly made such a killer roster is because they had multiple first, multiple second round picks because they went up and got the 10th pick overall after they had a really good winning season to get a Jalen Carter. And that's I see that happening. I see maybe not this year, but next year when you get all these comp picks, making a package to go back up in the high second, back up in the low first, getting two studs on cheap contracts on positions of need when you lost
Yeah.
when you lost a Sweat, when you lost a Becton, picking someone up like that. Um, and Howie Roseman and your front office are killer when it comes to the draft. Your free agency is it's hit and miss sometimes, which free agency is
Mhm.
tough, but the draft I don't know if I know of one first or second round pick that you guys missed on, other than like you mentioned Jalen Reagor, but that was a while ago. We're not going to talk about that anymore. Um, I mean, Jalen Carter was a great pickup. You got Milton Williams in the third round. You guys know how to draft. Now you have, I think you said 20 draft picks in 2 years. That has the potential to be like 10 solid starters, and you're going to get them on cheap rookie contracts. That's how you build a dynasty. So the way I see it, I think your team, I think the Eagles got a little bit worse this year. For now, we'll see what the draft goes, and there's still time of free agency. You got a little worse right now because losing Becton, losing edge rushers and corners like Rogers, it hurts. And you lost Darius Slay, who's that veteran presence isn't going to be there anymore for your
Yeah.
rookies. Um, but in the grand scheme of things, you guys are trying to set yourself up for the future, not just next year, but for the
Mhm.
future. So it's going to be interesting. It's kind of a spoiler alert. I still see you guys winning that division, but the Commanders are going to fight you guys. That's going to be tight. Cowboys are going to be awful. Giants are going to be a dumpster fire, but it's going to be a heavyweight match between the Commanders and the Eagles for number one in that division.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a very good read on it. Maybe we can dig into some of the Eagles free agent signings, just to kind of read into the tea leaves to see
Yeah,
what we think could
yeah,
happen. And
absolutely.
let me start out by saying, Andrew, I'm not naive. These people are not like wow players. These are not players that you're like
Yeah.
thinking they're going to be amazing. But um, I gotta give the Eagles props in the past. They've done good at filling in fill-in players. They got
Hmm.
Chris Long from the Patriots, and Chris Long played a huge role in the
Hmm.
2017 team. Zach Bond comes in on a cheap deal last
Hmm.
year and plays like an all-pro linebacker. I thought that was a really good move. Um, so, I mean, kind of looking around elsewhere, I thought the trade the Eagles made of getting rid of um, Kenny
Kenny
Pickett.
Pickett, that was
Yeah,
a great deal. That he got a draft pick on top of a younger quarterback who has potential. That's
yeah. Well,
great move.
and and here's the funny thing is I wanted the Eagles to pick Dorian Thompson Robinson a couple years
Right.
ago. That is who was
Yeah.
on my
Hmm.
I circled him and I'm like, day
DTR.
three,
Hmm.
that is who I want. Bring in this
Hmm.
guy. This is who. And instead, I think if I remember right, we went with Tanner McKee, and I was like, ugh, Tanner McKee. We went with that guy. But Tanner's
Hmm.
actually looking really good. It's looking like a good move. So, but I love that trade. I love that one for one. My only gripe with the trades market is that
Yep.
CJG Jade. I
Yep.
just
Yep.
here's
You picked
here's the
up a
thing.
guard.
This is what makes me frustrated, and no one's talking about this in Eagles land. They're too focused on we had to get rid of CJGJ. It was an inevitable salary. What? Fine, whatever. If you want to talk about
Hmm.
cash on hand versus cap, all those things, that's fine.
Hmm.
But here's the more important thing: you don't trade a safety that you know is a starter today for someone that's a guard that you have no idea if he's even a second stringer, and then do a pick swap as well. Next time you do that trade, Howie, you put your foot down and say, I'm not giving up a draft pick for a guard that I have no idea how much talent he has left in the tank. That was a dumb move on his part. And only reason I can think he does this is if Jeff Stoutland is like, I want this guy.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the
Yeah.
case, and maybe he backed himself into a corner. It's all possible, but Howie, you got bullied on this trade. You got
Hmm.
bullied. But again, I thought that the trade market for the Texans, I don't love all the moves, but I do like their trades. The Tunsil for the 4 picks
They got a
and
lot of picks. Yeah.
the fact that they got a pick back with for Green, what are
Hmm.
they doing?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't understand what the Eagles are doing, man. A 5 for a 6. That's the best you could do. Like, come on. I just to me that deserves
Yeah.
more scrutiny. It's not just the fact you traded CJGJ. It's the fact that you had to give up a pick for a guard that you have no idea how good he is.
Yep.
Like another note on that, CJGJ after he got traded tried to trade Green for himself, and Madden denied the trade on the app because like CJG is at 87 and Green's like a 67. I laughed pretty hard when I saw that because I hope Harry Roseman saw that and thought, yeah, that was a pretty stupid move. Like that was a
Hmm.
bad job on my part. I did not GM well. That was like maybe Chip Kelly got in the organization for like 20 minutes and made that trade because he was not thinking on
Hmm.
that one. The Eagles did sign a couple tight ends. I'm okay with them. Joshua Uche
Hmm.
is the defensive
That
end
that could be
edge.
something. That
It
was the big
could
one I
be.
saw this side because he has potential. He's shown some things occasionally.
Yeah, I think it's a no risk move. That's the way I'd phrase it. It's
Yep.
no risk.
Yeah.
The one I don't like is the AJ Dillon. it gives me too much of a similar Rashad Penny vibes. I think Dylan could be good,
Hmm.
but when I look at all the free agents that are available, Kareem Hunt went back to the Chiefs on a 1 year, 1.5. Raheem Mostert went to the Raiders on a 1 year, 2.1 million.
Hmm.
And there's lots of other running backs we could get into. This guy is not playing.
J.K. Dobbins is available.
Yeah, there's so many other players that I'm just like, why did you go
Nick
for
Chubb is
him?
available.
Why would you pick him? I know there's upside, but it doesn't matter how good it's the Cooper Cup thing. I don't care how good Cooper Cup was in
Was.
2021.
Hmm.
I care about how good he is right now today. How good is AJ
Hmm.
Dillon today? Maybe part of
Yeah.
the thought is that Howie's really trying to get creative with comp picks, and maybe he's hoping that AJ Dillon and Joshua Uche and Harrison Bryant, the tight end, will like emerge as like really elite, awesome weapons, and then turn into comp picks. But that's way too much 3D, 4D level chess. It's way too far out.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. And I've never really been a fan of planning your team around comp picks.
Agreed.
You plan your team to win, and then bonus points if you get comp picks to where you think, okay, if I can maneuver this a little bit differently, maybe I'll get a comp pick out of it. Awesome, great. But that's not the goal. The goal isn't to get these compensatory picks whenever it's, I mean, you have a high understanding of what it is, but it's still no guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna sign guys. There's gonna be a guy available. You're like, how is that guy available? We gotta sign him, and then it's gonna cancel on a comp pick. Great example last year with the Vikings. We had added all our guys. We were gonna get two comp picks back according to the charts, with the Daniil Hunter and the Kirk Cousins contracts when they left. But then out of the blue, we had some injuries, like in some off-season stuff, where we had to
Mm-hmm.
get corners. So we went and picked up Shaq Griffin, and that canceled out the Daniil Hunter contract. So all we got back was one. That just happens. We needed another corner. We're not gonna not sign a corner just because we're trying to
Right.
get another comp pick next year.
Right.
That just happens. You can't build your understanding of what you're going to have your team be all around comp picks that aren't guaranteed. That's my soapbox
Yeah.
on comp picks. I
No,
just,
that's fair.
everyone, I mean, whenever Sam Darnold this year was, people were saying, maybe we'll try to tag and trade him. No, just let him walk. We'll get a comp pick. You don't know we're going to get a comp pick. We're going to be spenders in free agency. There's a good chance we don't get anything for him for just walking. Try to trade him. But a lot of people are saying, oh, they'll get a comp pick for him. Okay, we'll see if we get one next year. As of it stands right now, we're still projected to get one for him, but there's still a lot of stuff to happen. And I just can't stand people will say, oh yeah, just let him walk, you'll get a comp pick. Mm, not guaranteed.
Yeah, no, I understand, and it's tough, man. People get too obsessed sometimes with what they
Hmm.
think they'll get, what they believe they'll receive, and
Yep.
um, yeah, that is interesting. You guys are still, I mean, you would not want to give up that Sam Darnold. Ugh. I mean, if it's me, because I do see here that you guys are projected to still get a third round, I would
For
not
him,
want to
yeah.
give that up. I would do everything I can to hold off on any more moves to possibly cancel out. So you guys could have gotten a fifth round pick for Daniel Jones. Shucks. For 1 year, $14 million backup quarterback, Daniel Jones.
I mean, we'll see if he starts for the Colts, but in a way, Minnesota's been, I mean, they haven't done it this year, but their thought process, at least internally, was to get these quarterbacks that didn't play very well previously, get them on our team, build them up a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, and send them out to the world, and perhaps get a comp pick for him. We're getting one of Sam Darnold as it is right now. We would have for Daniel Jones, but we just there's too much talent. We had to get some guys, and so we got canceled out. I think which one was it that we got canceled out with the Daniel Jones? Oh man.
I have here as Ryan Kelly.
Yeah, it
That's
was Ron Kelly. Yep. Yep. And Will Fries was the Bynum contract. So yeah, it was Kelly. But we're not going to not sign Kelly just because we want to try to get a fifth round pick next year. No, that's silly. That is silly.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Anything else on Vikings free agent moves you want to talk about, or
Oh, I could spend some time on that.
let's hear
I
it?
could so let me start at the beginning. So Minnesota had two glaring holes in the offseason, trenches on both sides. This was the first thing that, well, actually, the very first move they made, which was kind of odd. That's the first one they made, but they went and got Isaiah Rodgers. That was the first move they made. The second move was Brian Kelly, and like we touched on earlier, I thought, man, we got a better center. Awesome, great, but what are we doing about the guards? Are we just going to move Bradbury to a guard where he's never played in his whole career? That's not going to work. And then the domino effect started to happen the very next morning. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday morning. It just started boom, 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 boom. We went and got Will Fries, who I knew we wanted, but I knew the Giants wanted him and the Patriots wanted him. I thought, are we going to be able to? And we got him in a great contract. He's 26 going on 27, just come off a broken leg, but broken legs are those are fluky. Those aren't like torn ACLs. That's going to heal, going to be perfectly fine. And then we go get our defensive tackles. And this is kind of going along with what we were talking about, where this just is kind of a bonus to it, not the goal. But Jonathan Allen and Hargrave do not count against the comp pick formula because they were cut.
That's a very good point.
So they're really good players that we wanted, but it's a bonus that they were cut so we didn't get canceled out in any comp pick potential next year. So I love those moves. And then we got a couple like cheap like a backup safety to play on special teams. We got another corner and then a backup O tackle, um, a cheap contract to be our swing guy. So all those were fine. We brought back Byron Murphy. It's a steep contract. He's making more than like DJ Reed and Carlton Davis, things like that. I think it's a little bit high, but he knows our system. He works well with Brian Flores, and he was getting a lot on the market. My concern is last year was his first really good year. Before that, he's been kind of average. So was that a breakout? Possibly. That's great. Or was it a fluke? It might have been more on the fluky because he had six picks. Picks are hard to really track. But I do like it overall because he knows our system. He's a great guy, great leader. He's going to work well with some younger guys. We're trying to get younger in that room, and he's still not that old. I just think it's a little pricey, but overall, I like keeping him. And then we lost Bynum, but we're replaced him with Theo Jackson, who potentially could be as good. Maybe a slight step back, but it's not like a huge jump. And we're saving like $12 million on the contract comparison. So I love that. The thing, oh, and also what should happen today actually with Jordan Mason. I think that's very underrated, a huge move. We gave up the sixth round pick we got for Ed Ingram, and we're dropping down like 20 spots in the fifth round to pick up a legitimate piece that's going to give us a lot of snaps. I love that. And I sent you a message saying that now we don't need to draft a running back. We needed to prior to yesterday, which is fine. There's plenty of backs in this draft. But now we don't absolutely need to. We get to draft one whenever we're at a good spot, not have to overpay for one. I love that. We can let the draft come to us. We don't have many draft picks. We have four right now. Most likely we're going to trade back in the first round, which is fine. But now we can let it come to us, pick up best player available instead of reaching for a position of need. So I love that. There's two big things though with the Vikings. And I touched on this earlier in our previous episode, but all these contracts that they've given out have been cheap this year. We still have like 25 or 30 million dollars left in cap space, which is insane to think after all those guys I just touched on that we signed. It is exciting and scary because of one glaring thing that hasn't happened, and that's a backup quarterback. And this whole Aaron Rodgers fiasco going on because it's just a scary coincidence that we have enough cap space left over to go sign someone like an Aaron Rodgers because that's how
Mhm.
much he's going to command is 2025 in that range. And that's how much we have left. I hate thinking that. It can't happen. The only Rodgers we're signing in this offseason is Isaiah, not Aaron. Um, but it scares me. What I think is going to happen though is we still have that 20, 25 million left. We're going to make one more big move. I don't know who it is. It might be a trade even. There's been some trade rumors speculating. I don't think we're trading for Sauce Gardner. That'd be awesome. super awesome, but I don't think it's going to be anything like that. I think we potentially could trade for a veteran-ish player making a high salary this year. Sauce Gardner still on his rookie contract, so that would cost way too much stuff to trade for him. But we might be trying. I don't know if I don't can't give you a good example, but I don't really see us signing another big free agent. I kind of see a potential trade for, like I said, for like a veteran making decent money. Maybe a corner, maybe a wide receiver three. Cooper Kupp made sense for us as wide receiver
Mhm.
three, making about 10 million, but he went with Seattle. Get your bag. Congrats. Because Jordan Addison's going to be suspended for 3 games most likely because of his off-field stuff, which that's a different story. So we do need wide receiver help. I just don't see anyone outside of potentially Asante Samuel Jr. But I don't know if that's where we're saving that 20-25 million. I see some kind of big thing happening because Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has gone all in this year. Big name, splashy contract guys. He's got a lot of money left, and I don't think he's going to let that just sit there. There's something else brewing. I don't know what it is right now, but they are going all in this year. And sometimes some teams go all in, and it's like, oh, you guys weren't ready. This wasn't going to happen.
Mhm.
Let me think of a good example. The Falcons last year signing a big deal to Kirk Cousins. You guys weren't just a quarterback away. Or the Vikings a few years ago when we signed Kirk Cousins, when we thought we were just a quarterback away. Obviously, we weren't. It just feels like this could be different. I'm not predicting anything right now, but I really like what's going on. And if
Mhm.
JJ McCarthy can be close to what I think he can be, and we don't mess with that stupid Rodgers thing, there could be something going here. Could be something going here. We won 14 games last year. I'm not predicting 14 wins. That's a fluke. We're probably going to be in 11-12 range, which is really good still. But I like what we did. We addressed our needs. We have money left over to make a big splash. And when the draft comes, we can just go BPA, maybe get a Kenneth Grant or even like Hampton from North Carolina. That'd be a great running back to have. Kwesi has something going, and I like it. And I think it's because he has not been signed to an extension, and he wants to show the staff like, hey, ownership, hey, I should be extended. Give me a deal, guys. And I think after this free agency, they absolutely have to because he has done some things and it's been brilliant and I've loved it. So I like our free agency. I like where we're going. I think there's potential for something special here.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. I've really liked, and by the way, I didn't talk about the Vikings being as a winner in our last podcast because I wanted to focus on other teams, but
Hmm.
they absolutely deserve to be in the discussion of pulling down
Yeah.
that banner and being 2025 NFL free agency.
Hmm.
What do you want to call it? Champs, winners,
For now,
competitors.
there's still some time, but yeah, they did everything they needed to do, and they knocked it out of the park. I got to give Kwesi and the staff so much credit. Past two
I
free
mean,
agencies, they've really crushed it. The draft, they haven't
well,
as much,
uh-huh.
but free agency, they know what they're doing in free agency.
Well, and like you talked about the draft picks, and maybe you as a Vikings fan look at the Cam Robinson trade and think, yeah, that wasn't worth it. We shouldn't have done it. But in my mind, I think it was because you needed to be able to see if Sam Darnold could be the QB moving forward. You needed to give him the tools. He needed a competent line. I'm not saying the Vikings line was good enough last year, but Cam Robinson did help to some degree to
Hmm.
solidify things after the injury concerns you guys had. But you needed to be able to turn the page and say,
Hmm.
okay, it is firmly not Sam Darnold's. And to me, that's exactly what happened. You got the
Hmm.
firm answer. This is not our guy. We
Absolutely.
can't we
Yeah.
can't blame it on anybody else.
At the time, I loved the trade because we already had gone through our gauntlet at the beginning of the season, went 5-0 until we lost to the Lions, and
Hmm.
then against the Rams in the halftime when Darisaw went out, we're still 5-2. Really good chance to win our next set of games. Something could be going here. Let's try and fix our big hole now. I love the move, and we didn't give up a whole lot. I think it was it fourth next year. I think that's what it was. I don't think it was this year's draft. I think it was next year's draft. I think that's what it was. Um, and grand scheme of things, he's going to get a decent contract for someone. So talk about what we just touched on. That's going to factor into the comp formula. And maybe that's what we're waiting on. Maybe we're waiting for him to get signed, and then we go after one more free agent. So that kind of cancels each other out, and we still get that same Donald third. That might be what we're waiting on.
It's possible. I mean, I think that Cam's going to get signed by somebody. It just depends
He
on when
will.
that's going to be.
He will. Yeah.
Um, and it was a conditional. It was a, you guys gave up a conditional fifth and got a conditional seventh back. And I'm guessing those two qualified for sure. I don't know if the
Probably.
fifth became a fourth. I didn't hear
I
that.
think the fifth became a fourth. I think that's what it was. I think it
Um,
was next year's draft.
it's a little pricey, but I mean, I
Hmm.
still feel like it was worth. I mean, you really like you as a team, you have to know if a quarterback's in or not. You have to
Hmm.
know if that's a guy you can
And
trust.
I've never been more thankful to have those two L's because you saw what Sam Darnold truly is. In
Uh-huh.
games where it's not stressful, where he can just play football,
Hmm.
he's good.
Yeah,
When the stakes are high, he folded like a cheap tin. And he addressed that in his Seahawks introductory conference too. He said, "Yeah, I learned so much from those two games. I got to be better." Blah blah blah. He said all the right things, but yeah, that Lions game was just bad. The Rams game, he got pressured a lot, so I give him a less of a fault in that one. That was more on scheme, offensive line than just him. He had a lot of fault in that too, but that Lions game was bad. He was missing open receivers in the end zone, and he had opportunities to win that game. The Rams, from the jump, we weren't ready. That was He was probably the number one to blame, but right close behind him was like offensive line, play calling, boom, 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 boom. The Lions game, it was him. That's it. It was him because our defense kept us in the game all game.
yeah, they
We
did.
had four trips in the red zone and came up with like 3 points because he couldn't hit guys open. Anyway,
It's tough, man. I mean, I get it.
yep.
I still think about. I mean, I think about Eagles PTSD. And again, this would probably be something only Eagles fans think about. But I remember it was like 2007,
Hmm.
maybe nine, that the Eagles played the Dallas Cowboys and the end of the season against them, and the Eagles beat the Cowboys. They win the division, and that doesn't
Hmm.
happen. Instead, the Eagles get trounced. I mean, it's so bad. And then we
Hmm.
followed it up by going to Dallas the next week for the first round of the
Wild
playoffs
card.
and got trounced a second time. I mean, back to back trouncings against a
Hmm.
divisional rival. Just, oh man,
Yeah.
it's just rubbing way too much salt in the wound. That
Hmm.
was it, just ingrained in my memory. But on a similar note, this is kind of interesting. Do you know who's the quarterback that started those games for the Eagles?
In 08, 09.
It was, I think it'd be 08, 09.
Oh
It's a little
gosh.
while ago, but it does relate to our conversation about Darnold, kind of.
Was it McNabb?
It was McNabb. And do you know
Oh,
what
I got it
happened to
right.
McNabb in the off
He went to the
season?
Vikings.
He actually went to the Redskins. He
Okay,
was
and then he went to the
traded.
Vikings.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
so anyway, I feel like a kind of similar moment where the Eagles wanted those two games to be able to be like, all right,
Hmm.
we need to figure out if McNabb can still be the quarterback moving forward. And they watched it and thought, oh, he's cooked, and
Hmm.
traded him. And I think that he had a similar moment with Sam Darnold in those last two games.
Yeah.
Just crazy, man. It really is too bad. I I do think like coming back to like you said the full process, right? I think a lot of Eagles fans are panicking a lot right now,
Mm.
but um, overall, I feel like Howie does a good process. His overall thought process to things
Hmm.
is sound. He can think through things really well. The CJGJ move, maybe Kenyon
Yeah.
Green is going to be better than I thought he was. That one's a dud. For sure, that is a bad move. Outside of that, every other move he's made, respectable. Like
Hmm.
you can
He's
build on
built a
him.
great team. You got to give him credit.
He knows there's big moves coming. My guess is I feel like he is expecting the Jalen Carter contract to be going around 35 million per year next offseason.
Mm.
I feel like he's getting ready
Mm.
for that. He's anticipating it. You got Cooper DeJean that if he keeps playing good, you're going to have to give him a contract. You got Quinyon Mitchell. You've got Reed Blankenship, Cam Jurgens. Like there's people coming down the pipeline that he's like, I have got to figure out a way to pay these people. So I do get those things to some degree.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing too, I'll throw out there is the Eagles were super reserved in the 2023 offseason after they lost the Super Bowl. And I think part of it is they just didn't like the free agents available. They didn't feel like they were good
Yeah.
fits, and this could be part of it. You could be looking at it and going, how much is being paid right now to these players? I'm not loving the
Hmm.
value we're getting in return. And if that's the case, that's respectable. Like I can live with
Hmm.
that. We just have to come into the next offseason with a plan of how we're going to address these holes because there's
Hmm.
going to be holes. I think that we're not going to be satisfied at guard. We might get good enough play from Tyler Steen to still be competitive. Um,
Yeah.
we got to figure out that cornerback too. Is Cooper DeJean jumping to quarterback too, or is he going to stay at nickelback?
Hmm.
And it's unsure. The safety spot for is probably the biggest problem though right now.
Yeah.
We cannot go into the season. I've heard Sidney Brown's the rumor to be the person to take over, and if that's the case, yikes. Uh, I know he's had good moments, and I know people focus on that, and they say there's injuries and other things,
Hmm.
but he's not Chase Brown. Chase Brown, his twin brother over in Cincinnati, is actually playing like a player you want to pay a long-term contract to. Sidney Brown, on the
Hmm.
other hand, is I would not want to pay him. I would not want him to be my starter right now. I they
Yeah.
hopefully Howie's going to continue to look at the process. He's got picks. Maybe there's going to be a safety available that's on a
Oh,
cheaper
there's two
deal.
really good safeties. One from Georgia, one from Texas. That
Yes.
either one of those guys would be great. Would be great. I mean, a lot of stuff I listen to because the Vikings, with Harris Smith retiring possibly, and then came by and leaving, we were looking at do we need a safety? And so a lot of homework on those two guys from Georgia and Texas. Those two guys are really good. They're ready to play now. So if you guys
Yeah.
get one of them, there's your hole filled.
Well, hopefully that happens. I'm not banking on that because you're the number
Hmm.
32 pick. And
Hmm.
we'll see. It depends how the draft falls. Nolan Smith fell to them and should not have fell to them in the
Yeah. And I
2023
think that
draft.
Texas safety is a second to third round comp. So you had a shot at him.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's two stuff, but that's the hard part as an NFL Super Bowl champ, right? You have to look at everything as it's not a first
Hmm.
round. You're not looking for first round talent at that pick. You're gonna have to start thinking about second.
Hmm.
And same thing in the second round. You have to start thinking about third round. I mean, it's your
And then
whole,
there's the other thought. You guys got so many picks, you could trade up if you wanted to.
and that might be the case. We'll see. I'll be
Hmm.
interested to see what Howie's approach is going to be. Is he going to be trading up or is he going to be trading back and
Hmm.
trying to recoup more picks for next year? Because, I mean, now he's got these comp picks. He might just play this game of selling those picks and then turning them into future picks that are worth more. He loves to do that. He loves to give up a
Yeah.
pick this year, but you're going to give me a more expensive pick next year.
Yeah.
And teams like the Giants, that don't have smart front offices, they love to pay that premium because they are not thinking
Hmm.
about next year. It's just this year, baby, and overpaying contracts and making bad moves to
Hmm.
make up for making utterly horrible decisions from an entire year earlier. So
Man, poor Blake Neighbors. I wish he was on a different team. I like him as a
makes a
player.
difference, man. It makes a difference who you're
Hmm.
drafted by. It sets your window.
Hmm.
And but man, I'm excited for how our teams do this year. I think they both have a
Yeah.
great shot to be very
Yeah.
competitive. The NFC though,
Hmm.
the NFC feels like it's becoming the NFC beast. Like it really is, um, top to bottom. This is a good conference that I would say is leapfrogging the AFC again. For a while, the AFC was on top. I like
Hmm.
the way that the NFC is progressing. I mean, you've got the Vikings. They're going to be a great team to watch. The other two NFC North teams of the Packers and Bears are competitive. The Lions will be good again. I think the
Hmm.
Buccaneers are going to be respectable.
Hmm.
Um, NFC West is like a bit of a wild card at this point. Is who probably
The
Rams?
Rams will be there. They'll be there, but
Yeah,
they won't be like competing for a
yeah,
title. But they'll be there. They'll be a tough out. They're well coached. They got some players. So yeah,
yeah,
they'll be relevant. They just won't be like, oh, watch out for them kind of a
yeah,
team.
yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with that. So there will be some interesting things to watch for the coming season.
Hmm.
I'm excited. I'm
Yep,
excited.
there's a
Free agency's changed the
lot
thing a
more to
little bit.
go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I can't wait for the draft. And then after the draft, we'll get into our divisional rankings going from team to team and 1 through 4. Spoiler alert, Packers are 4 for me. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Andrew's a totally unbiased analyst when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. He has no ill will towards that team or hoping that they'll be a terrible football team.
Well, I want the other 3 teams in the North all to be terrible. So I can't take all of them to finish fourth if I would want to.
You'll just do a 4A, 4B, 4C. That's what you'll do.
They'll all have the same record of like 4-12.
Yeah, that's realistic. That's a great way
Yeah.
to go on that. I like it. I like it. On a different
Oh
note,
man.
Andrew, can I share a bit
Yeah.
of a personal thing that was funny today?
Oh, absolutely.
So we had way too many good things to get into earlier. So I
Yeah.
didn't want to take away from um, those things, but it was pretty funny for me. I had a friend of mine that I know from where I live that wanted to go running today. I'm preparing
Okay.
for a half marathon, so I'm going on a half marathon.
Okay.
My sister-in-law is really insistent on like, hey, I want to do this. I think it'll be cool. It'll be fun. But she is going to do half marathon in June, and so she's invited me to do it with her, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. It sounds like a good opportunity.
Hmm.
But I went running today with my friend, and we ran to a place called Initial Point. Totally thought it was going to be a shorter run, not like a short run, but that was going to be like
Hmm.
8 miles out, 8 miles back. So it's going to be long, but it wasn't going to be like a marathon.
Hmm.
Well, we start the run and we get to 8 miles and we still haven't gotten there yet. And then we
Uh-oh.
get to 9 miles and we still haven't gotten there yet. We get to 10 miles and we still haven't gotten there yet. And then
Oh
finally at
boy.
10 miles, we turn left to go to this peak and we get to the top at 11.5 miles.
Oh, oh, oh.
And then we have to run back to
All the way
town.
back. Yep. Hmm.
So this guy got to halfway back to town and knew he could not keep going, or else I'd have to walk the rest of the way and give up my entire Saturday. So when you were
Uh-huh.
messaging me, that's what I was doing today.
That's what
I
you're
was
doing.
busy running from Initial Point, out of breath, feeling extra fat and lazy, and just gasping for air. So anyway,
Hmm.
I just had to share that because I thought it was too funny that you're messaging me and at the same time I am
Literally feel like
just
you're dying.
just owning the worst decision I've made running wise ever. I've never ever ran more than like 8 miles in one go, and running
Hmm.
16, 17 miles today was, dude, it was brutal.
Mm.
It was
That
brutal.
sounds bad.
I don't know how people run full marathons. I
For
think,
fun too.
yeah, I think a half marathon might be it for me, and I'm going to call it good and
Hmm.
retire. But yeah, what a horrible mistake on my part, thinking that it was an 8 mile run that out, and then it turned into 11 miles. So an extra 3 miles each way, 3.5. No
Seven
big
miles
deal.
extra. Yep.
Yeah, no big deal. Just
Wow.
yeah. So
Wow.
make sure you look up where you're going. Don't just go into it thinking it's going to be X amount of miles, and then you get to your destination and
Hmm.
realize how wrong you were, because that was
Do
a
your
valuable
homework,
lesson
people.
for me. Yeah, don't do what some GMs do, where you just blindly go into a player because of what you've heard about them. Do
Hmm.
research. Yeah.
Research. That's it. That's the lesson of the day. Is do your research.
Yes. Amen. Amen.
Well, that was a great story. That was a great story. I feel bad
Well,
for you, but you made it.
no, I'll keep you updated how the half marathon goes in June.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. So, I mean, on the bright side, when I do a 13.1 mile run, I'm going to say to myself, hey, at least this isn't 17 miles. So I guess that there's that bright side of,
There you
dropping
go.
it by 3.9 miles. So thankfully. Oh, yeah, it was I came home and did stretches for about 30 minutes because I'm getting older, Andrew. I'm getting into my 30s now, so the aches and
I
pains
know
are
what you
starting to
mean.
add on.
I
So
know what you mean.
yeah, did stretching for way too long in order to feel decent and still feel achy right now. So
Hmm.
it's fun.
It's definitely a word for it.
Yes. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Well, Andrew, is there
Well,
anything else you wanted to cover?
I don't think so. I think that's good for this round. There's gonna be more free agency moves. We'll touch on that next time, and we'll get into some draft stuff because that's not that far away, honestly.
No,
Like a
it's
month
coming.
away, like 5 weeks,
Yeah, it's coming.
something like
It's
that.
coming. Yeah.
So there's so much more fun stuff to go. Divisional stuff, looking at some previews, our Super Bowl predictions, all that stuff. So we got a lot more really good stuff coming up.
Yep. I like it. It'll be good. Well, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
This was fun, man. Glad we got to talk about
Yeah,
the two most important teams in the NFL.
absolutely. And unfortunately, they're in the same division. So, or same conference, I should say. So we can't play a Super Bowl against each other. Only one of
No,
us can go.
no, I know. I know. I wish we could.
It
That would be
sucks.
great.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, guys, for joining us this week on the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. We will see you next time.
See everybody.